You'll never win an argument with me, my girlfriend boasted. I said nothing. Then I played the recording of her admitting everything. Her face? Worth more than any victory. I'm Luke, 30 years old, male. And if my hands are shaking while I type this, it's because I can still see her face when I pressed play. Her name's Rachel, 28 years old, female. My girlfriend for almost 3 years. She's gorgeous, sharp-tongued, the kind of person who could walk into any room and own it. People adored her confidence. I did too at first, but that confidence? It had teeth. Over time, it stopped being charming and started feeling like a knife she'd twist whenever she needed to win and Hawaii. She loved arguments the way some people love dessert. If we disagreed, it wasn't about finding middle ground. It was about her crushing me, proving I was stupid, weak, forgettable. And she'd gloat afterward, smirking while saying, "You'll never win an argument with me, ever. That's just how it is." I used to laugh it off, pretend it didn't sting. But in my head, I'd replay all those moments, me trying to calmly explain my side while she rolled her eyes, talked over me, mocked my tone. Me going quiet because it was easier than fighting. The humiliation of realizing I wasn't being heard. I was being defeated. It wasn't just words either. She'd throw things when she was frustrated. Slam doors, shatter glasses, once even knocked a picture frame off the wall because I said I didn't like the movie she picked. That frame was of my late grandfather. Shards of glass everywhere, her saying, "It was an accident, calm down." But it never felt accidental. I kept telling myself I loved her, that I could handle it. That the fights didn't erase the good days, but deep down, I knew I was lying. The turning point came one night after a party. We were in the car and she was drunk, not fall down wasted, but just loose enough to run her mouth without the usual filter. She started rambling about a guy from work, how she'd crossed a line with him one night after drinks, how it wasn't really cheating because it didn't go all the way, how she'd never admit it out loud because she'd destroy me in an argument if I ever accused her. She laughed when she said it, a casual, cruel laugh. Like the whole thing was a private joke. And me? I didn't argue. I didn't even breathe too loudly. I just quietly tapped my phone, recording every word. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it. All I knew was that for the first time in years, I wasn't powerless anymore. The thing about Rachel was that she could smell weakness like a predator. Usually after one of her rants, I'd sulk a little, maybe try to reason with her, eventually back down. But after I caught that recording, something shifted. I didn't rise to her bait anymore. I didn't flinch when she jabbed at me. I just went quiet. And that silence, it drove her insane. A few days later, we were in the kitchen. She was making pasta, wine glass in hand, running her mouth about how my job wasn't ambitious enough compared to her friends' boyfriends who were killing it. Normally, I would have defended myself, explained the stability I had, how I was building something solid. But this time, I just shrugged. Her fork clattered against the counter. "What's with you lately? You think ignoring me makes you superior? Cute strategy, Luke. Real mature." I said nothing, just kept eating. She slammed the wine glass down hard enough that the stem snapped. "Answer me!" Her voice cracked like a whip. I looked at her, calm as I could manage, and said, "I don't feel like fighting tonight." The look on her face, it wasn't anger, it was panic. Like I'd just stolen the script out of her hands mid-performance. Rachel thrived on chaos, on me dancing to her rhythm. Without it, she was unmoored. That's when the paranoia began. She started checking my phone when I was in the shower, snooping through my drawers. Once I came home early from work and found her sitting at my desk, scrolling my laptop with this manic look, like she expected to find some secret I was hiding. "Who are you texting all the time?" she snapped. "My boss," I said truthfully. "Deadlines." "Don't play dumb with me, you've changed." Her suspicion was almost laughable. She thought I was cheating. Meanwhile, the only secret I held was that 3-minute audio file, her own voice admitting to betraying me. But the pressure cooker didn't stop there. Rachel began testing me in public. At dinner with friends, she'd cut me off mid-sentence, correcting me loudly. At a barbecue, she joked about how I was too cowardly to stand up to her. The laughter from everyone else stung, but I kept my face blank. She wanted a reaction. I gave her none. And that's when her behavior turned physical. One night she blocked the doorway when I tried to leave after a fight. She pressed her palms against my chest and shoved hard enough to make me stumble. "Say something, damn it! Why are you acting like a corpse? I remember gripping the door frame, steadying myself, staring at her with this detached calm I didn't even recognize as mine. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't in control anymore. I was. The recording wasn't just leverage, it was a time bomb, and I was almost ready to light the fuse. Don't forget to subscribe. It was Rachel's idea to host a little get-together at our apartment. Just a casual dinner, she said. But with Rachel, nothing was ever casual. She lived for the stage, and people, especially mutual friends, were her audience. I knew what she wanted, to put me on display, to remind everyone of her dominance. And honestly, I let her. Because the more rope she gave herself, the harder she'd hang. That night, the place was buzzing. She'd made her famous chicken dish, poured generous glasses of wine, and was in full performance mode, laughing too loud, interrupting me every time I tried to answer a question, tossing little digs in front of everyone like sprinkles on a cake. Luke doesn't really get social cues, bless him, she joked at one point, smirking at her best friend Lila, 29 years old, female. They both laughed. I smiled politely, stayed quiet, and the quieter I was, the bolder she became. Halfway through the night, conversation turned to relationships. Someone asked what the secret was to making things work long-term. That was her cue. Rachel set her wine glass down, leaned back with that smug grin, and said, "Honestly, the key is knowing you'll never win an argument with me. Luke knows better than to even try." The table laughed nervously. Everyone had heard her brag before, but this time the laughter had an edge. Even Lila shifted uncomfortably. Rachel, of course, took their silence as validation. He just sits there, nods along. Smartest thing he's ever learned. I could feel the heat crawl up my neck. Not from shame this time, but anticipation. My hand twitched toward my phone in my pocket. That file was sitting there, waiting, like a bullet in a chamber. But I didn't pull the trigger, not yet. Instead, I stood up, took our guests' plates to the sink, and excused myself to the balcony for air. Rachel followed 10 minutes later, fuming. "What the hell was that? You just left me hanging out there," she hissed. I turned slowly, met her eyes. "I'm just letting you talk." The way she froze, like she wasn't sure if I meant something more, was almost satisfying enough. Almost. The next morning, things escalated further. She accused me of flirting with Lila, of scheming behind her back. Her paranoia was spiraling now, and I didn't have to push, just exist. Every calm breath I took felt like gasoline on her fire. That's when she crossed a line. She showed up at my job unannounced. I work in a small office, professional enough that drama isn't welcome. But Rachel stormed in mid-afternoon, voice raised, demanding to know who I was sneaking around with. Papers rustled. Coworkers stared. I felt my chest hollow out in embarrassment. I guided her outside, kept my tone low. "Rachel, you need to leave." She slapped my arm. Not hard, but enough to draw stares from passers-by. Her voice cracked into a screech. "Don't you dare dismiss me like I'm crazy." And right there, on that sidewalk, with strangers slowing to watch, I realized something. She wasn't going to stop until she completely burned us down. Which was fine, because I'd already decided how I wanted the fire to spread. And it was almost time to press play. Rachel was unraveling faster than I thought possible. After the office meltdown, there was no going back. My coworkers looked at me differently. Sympathetic glances, whispered questions in the break room. I wanted to crawl out of my own skin, but Rachel? She doubled down. 2 days later, she ambushed me with what she called a relationship intervention. Her idea, of course, was to drag in outsiders, her sister Megan, 31 years old, female, and her best friend Lila, into our living room like she was hosting a talk show. I walked in from work to find them already seated, wine glasses lined up like props. Rachel was pacing, face flushed with excitement. "Luke," she announced dramatically, "we need to talk. You've been distant and it's affecting everyone. Megan and Lila are here to help mediate." Megan gave me a half-hearted smile, the kind you give someone at a funeral. Lila just looked uncomfortable, fiddling with her glass. Rachel launched into her speech. How I was emotionally unavailable, how I refused to engage, how I made her feel crazy by going silent. She was twisting reality so aggressively I almost laughed. Almost. Finally, she turned to her audience. "See? He just sits there. Won't fight, won't even try. That's what I deal with every day. I took a long breath. My heart hammered into my chest, but my voice came out steady. Rachel, are you sure you want to do this in front of them? Her eyes glittered. Oh, I'm counting on it. Go ahead, Luke. Try to make me look bad. You'll never win. That was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. I pulled my phone out, scrolled for a second, then tapped play. Her voice filled the room, slurred but clear. I crossed a line with him one night after drinks, but it's not really cheating if it didn't go all the way. Luke would never know anyway. If he accused me, I'd destroy him in an argument. Ha! He wouldn't stand a chance. The sound of her own laugh, the one she thought was private, hung in the air like smoke. Megan's jaw literally dropped. Lila put her glass down so hard it sloshed. And Rachel? She went pale. Not angry pale, ashen pale. That's fake, she stammered. Luke, you edited that. I didn't say a word. Just let the recording loop once more. Every syllable of her betrayal echoing in the very room where she'd tried to humiliate me. The silence after was crushing. Megan stood abruptly, muttering something about needing air. Lila wouldn't even look at Rachel. And Rachel? Her mask shattered. She lunged at me, nails grazing my arm as she screamed, "How dare you record me? You think this proves something? You're pathetic." Her voice cracked into something primal, raw. She swept her hand across the coffee table, sending glasses and wine flying. It was chaos. And in the middle of it, I felt calm, for the first time in years, because I'd finally won. Not just the argument, no, something much bigger. And this was only the beginning of her spiral. Don't forget to subscribe. Update 1. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Honestly, I was nervous even hitting post on the first part. But reading through the comments, damn. Some of y'all had me laughing, some had me questioning my entire sanity, and others, well, let's just say the DMs ranged from king behavior to you're a manipulative psycho. Gotta love the internet. So yeah, about the fallout. After I played the recording, Rachel completely lost it, like feral. Megan bolted out the door muttering about needing space, and Lila? She texted me later that night apologizing for not stepping in sooner. Said she'd suspected something was off for a while but didn't know the full extent. Fair enough, I don't blame her. Rachel, though, she didn't calm down. She trashed the living room. Wine splattered everywhere, shards of glass in the rug. She screamed so loud my upstairs neighbor came down, knocking on the door asking if he should call the cops. I just told him I had it handled. Spoiler, I didn't. After everyone left, she cornered me in the kitchen. Eyes bloodshot, mascara streaked, voice low and trembling. If you ever play that for anyone else, I'll ruin you. And the thing is, she meant it. She's the type who'd torch the earth just to say she owned the ashes. A lot of you commented that I should have kicked her out immediately, changed the locks, blocked her on everything. Trust me, I'm working on it. But you don't just walk away from someone like Rachel cleanly. She's the kind who won't let go without tearing chunks out of you. And I can already feel it, her claws digging in. She's been blowing up my phone nonstop since, alternating between rage texts, "I'll sue you for illegal recording, dumbass," and pitiful ones, "Please don't leave me, Luke, I'll do better, I swear." Here's the kicker. Megan called me yesterday. She wants to meet up privately because, in her words, there's more I need to know. And I don't think she means about me. I think she's seen Rachel's mask slip too many times and is finally connecting the dots. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Living in an apartment that looks like a crime scene, phone buzzing with messages from a woman oscillating between heartbreak and nuclear threats, and a sister-in-law who suddenly wants to talk. Some of you said I should go nuclear myself, burn the bridge, salt the ground, walk away. Tempting. But part of me wants her to feel it, to sit in the ruins she built. And trust me, I've got one more play left. Rachel didn't fade quietly into the background after that night. If anything, the exposure made her more unhinged. For 2 days, I barely slept. My phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls, paragraphs of texts, voice messages that swung from sobbing apologies to guttural screaming. She showed up outside my building twice, pounding on the buzzer, yelling my name loud enough for neighbors to glare at me through their blinds. I didn't let her in. The worst part? She started showing up at places she knew I'd be. First was the grocery store, where she accidentally bumped into me in the produce aisle, grabbing my wrist and whispering through clenched teeth, "Delete it, Luke, or I swear," before realizing we had an audience. Then came the bar. My friend Evan, 29 years old, male, invited me out for drinks to clear my head. Rachel stormed in 20 minutes later, hair wild, eyes wide, demanding to know why I was humiliating her in public. She shoved Evan when he tried to step between us. Security tossed her out while she screamed that I was gaslighting her. Everyone in that bar got a front row seat. It was ugly, but it was also leverage, because the more she spun out, the more people started believing me. Lila texted again, saying she was done covering for Rachel. Even Megan admitted she wasn't shocked by the recording anymore, that she'd seen Rachel's cruelty her whole life but had never had proof. And that's when the idea hit me. Revenge wasn't just about payback, it was about exposure. Rachel thrived on being admired. Her whole identity was built on controlling the narrative. What better way to shatter her than to let her destroy herself in the spotlight she loved? The perfect opportunity arrived quicker than I could have planned. Megan called to say their parents were hosting a small family dinner that weekend. Rachel, despite everything, was still planning to attend. "You should come," Megan said carefully. "It might help to clear the air." Clear the air, right? That night, I showed up in a clean shirt, recording tucked safely on my phone. Rachel was already there, sitting stiffly at the table, glass of wine clenched in her hand. Her parents welcomed me politely, though her mother's eyes flickered with suspicion. Dinner started fine, small talk, clinking silverware. But it didn't take long. Rachel couldn't resist. She jabbed at me mid-conversation, smiling sweetly as she said, "Luke's been acting strange lately. So dramatic, don't you think? Always trying to play the victim." Megan shot me a look across the table, a quiet nod. My pulse quickened. Rachel leaned back, smirk tugging at her lips. "He knows better than to argue with me, though. He never wins. Isn't that right, Luke?" I didn't answer. I just set my phone on the table, tapped the screen, and pressed play. Her voice filled her parents' dining room. The same damning confession, the laugh, the words about destroying me. Her father froze, fork halfway to his mouth. Her mother's face went slack. Megan looked almost relieved. "And Rachel?" she exploded. She lunged for the phone, knocking over a glass of red wine that splattered across the white tablecloth like blood. She screamed at me, high, ragged, incoherent, calling me a snake, a traitor, a loser. Her parents just sat there in stunned silence while she ripped the table apart in front of them. By the time she realized what she'd done, the damage was irreversible. And me? I didn't yell. I didn't fight. I just stood, pocketed my phone, and said quietly, "Looks like I finally won." The dinner was the kill shot. Rachel's parents sat in stunned silence while their daughter melted down like a child denied candy. Megan was pale but composed, almost like she'd been waiting years to see the mask finally crack. I left before dessert, walked out to the sound of Rachel screaming behind me, her father trying to calm her, her mother muttering, "What have you done, Rachel?" under her breath. It should have felt triumphant, and in a way it did. But I also knew what was coming next. Rachel was not the type to lick her wounds quietly. The retaliation began the very next morning. I woke up to 30 new voicemails, half of them sobbing apologies, the other half threatening to make sure everyone knows what a psycho you are. She didn't stop there. When I got to my car, someone had keyed the entire driver's side. Deep, jagged scratches like a message carved into metal. On my windshield, a note scrawled in lipstick, "Delete it or else." Later that week, Evan called me, furious. Apparently, Rachel had reached out to him on social media, spinning some story about me being abusive and manipulative. He didn't buy it, but he warned me she was spreading rumors fast. A couple of mutual acquaintances even reached out to ask if I was okay, meaning they'd heard her side first. And then came the social media posts. She went full scorched earth, cryptic stories about narcissists, posts about betrayal, even one picture of her arm with faint red scratches captioned, "This is what love did to me." That one made me sick, because I knew exactly what she was doing. But here's the thing. Rachel's meltdown wasn't happening in a vacuum anymore. Megan had seen the recording. Lila had too. And they weren't staying quiet. Both of them started pushing back publicly, gently at first. Lila dropping comments like, "That's not what happened, Rachel," under her posts. Megan went a step further, actually DMing me to say their parents were horrified and talking about getting her help. Meanwhile, Rachel's behavior toward me got more erratic. She started parking down the block from my apartment, sitting in her car with the headlights off. Twice, I caught her shadow outside my window at night. I even had to warn my landlord after she slipped inside the building once, pounding on my door at 3 a.m. until a neighbor threatened to call the cops. It was like living with a storm circling overhead. Destructive, unpredictable, and aimed entirely at me. But as much as she tried to drown me in chaos, she didn't realize the damage she was doing to herself. Every outburst, every rumor, every desperate stunt, it all chipped away at the image she fought so hard to maintain. And the more she spiraled, the calmer I felt. Because the truth? I didn't need to fight anymore. She was handing me victory every single day. The question now wasn't if she'd implode completely, it was when. And I had a front row seat. Update 2. Back again, and holy hell, I thought the first fallout was bad, but Rachel has turned self-destruction into an Olympic sport. First off, thanks to everyone who's been following this saga. I read way too many comments at 2 a.m. while listening to Rachel scream into my voicemail, and honestly, y'all kept me sane. Special shout out to the person who said, "Let her set herself on fire, you just bring the marshmallows." I laughed so hard I nearly woke my neighbor. So here's where we're at. Remember how Rachel tried to smear me online? Claiming I was abusive, manipulative, all that? Yeah, that backfired hard. Because Megan and Lila didn't stay quiet. Megan straight up posted a comment under Rachel's rant. "I was there. I heard the recording. Stop lying." And boom, the floodgates opened. People who'd been charmed or bullied by Rachel for years suddenly started chiming in with their own stories. Former co-workers, old friends, even one ex-boyfriend. All painting the same picture. Rachel was the problem. She couldn't handle the pushback. Instead of backing off, she doubled down. She made this dramatic Facebook Live where she screamed about betrayal, waved around a wine bottle like it was a prop, and tried to cry on cue. Except halfway through, she slipped and admitted, "Okay, yes, I did some things I shouldn't have, but," before cutting the stream. And of course, people screen recorded it. That video has been shared in our circle more times than I can count. Meanwhile, her campaign against me escalated. She keyed my car again, this time etching the word liar into the paint. She tried to get me written up at work by emailing my boss some long, unhinged rant about me being unstable. My boss literally called me in, rolled his eyes, and said, "Handle your ex, man. She's embarrassing herself." Here's the kicker. Her parents finally stepped in. Megan told me they confronted Rachel after the second car incident, and it ended with her mom crying, her dad threatening to cut her off financially, and Rachel storming out screaming that we were all conspiring against her. So now she's isolated. The image she built, confident, untouchable, always in control, is shattered. The people she thought would defend her? They're stepping back one by one. And me? I haven't lifted a finger since I pressed play that night. She's done all of this herself. The crazy part is, I'm not even angry anymore. Watching her spiral is like watching a storm burn itself out. Destructive, yes, but inevitable. And when it's over, nothing will be left standing except the truth. Some of you told me to get legal protection, and yeah, I'm looking into a restraining order now. Not because I'm scared of her beating me, but because I want paper proof of her behavior if she keeps trying to drag me down. But honestly, I think she's finished. Not because I won an argument, but because Rachel finally lost the only thing she ever cared about: control. And that, my friends, is better than any victory speech. Rachel's spiral didn't taper off. It crashed headfirst into the ground. 2 nights after my last post, I woke at 1 a.m. to a pounding on my door. My stomach dropped instantly. I knew who it was. I looked through the peephole. Rachel, barefoot, mascara smeared, hair wild. She was clutching a half-empty bottle of vodka like it was a lifeline. "Luke, open the door. We need to talk. You can't just leave me out here like this." I didn't answer, didn't even breathe too loud. She kept pounding, alternating between sobs and shrieks. Then she started slamming her shoulder into the door. I grabbed my phone, heart racing, and hit record. Not to taunt her, just to protect myself. After 15 agonizing minutes, she gave up, stumbled down the hallway, and vanished. But she left behind a smear of lipstick on my doorframe where she'd leaned her head, like a grotesque signature. The next morning, Megan called. She showed up at our parents' at 4 a.m., she said, voice shaky, screaming that everyone betrayed her. Dad almost called the cops. It was official. Rachel wasn't just embarrassing herself anymore. She was unraveling in front of her family. Still, she tried one last play. The following weekend, she crashed a mutual friend's birthday party. Evan was there, and he told me the story later in stunned detail. Rachel stormed in uninvited, marched straight to the middle of the room, and announced, "Luke's a liar. He fabricated everything. You're all sheep for believing him." Evan said people literally laughed. Not cruel laughter, just disbelief, like watching someone dig their own grave while insisting they're building a castle. And then, the fatal blow. Lila stood up, voice shaking but steady, and said, "Rachel, we all heard it. Stop humiliating yourself." Silence, utter silence. Rachel froze, then swept an entire cake off the table onto the floor, shrieking at everyone before storming out. That was the last time anyone in our circle saw her socially. The final straw for me came a few days later. I walked out to my car and found all 4 tires slashed. Not keyed this time, slashed. A note tucked under the windshield wiper in that same lipstick. "Hope you win now." That was it. I filed for a restraining order the next morning. Showed the judge everything: texts, voicemails, recordings, photos of the vandalism. They didn't hesitate. The order went through and Rachel was officially barred from coming near me. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't even realized I was starving for: peace. She could rage, she could spiral, she could torch every last relationship she had. None of it mattered anymore. She couldn't touch me. But the story isn't quite over, because the sweetest part of revenge wasn't the restraining order, or the recording, or even exposing her lies. It was what came next, when Rachel's world finally collapsed under the weight of her own chaos. Rachel's implosion wasn't loud after that. It was quiet, pathetic, and somehow even more brutal. The restraining order clipped her wings. No more pounding on my door, no more slashed tires or midnight rants under my window. She tried at first, messaging me from fake numbers, sending cryptic emails, but I blocked everything and documented it all. When the cops paid her a warning visit, even she seemed to realize the game was up. And that's when the real collapse started. Megan told me Rachel lost her job within a month. HR had concerns after her social media meltdowns, especially that infamous Facebook Live. Word spread fast in her industry. Too volatile, too risky. Her reputation, once her favorite weapon, had turned into poison. Friends she used to dominate drifted away. Even Lila cut contact completely. The girl who once strutted into every room like she owned it suddenly had nowhere left to go. The last time I saw her, it wasn't dramatic. I was walking downtown on my lunch break and spotted her across the street. No makeup, hair tied back, hoodie pulled up. She looked small. Not the Rachel who once told me I'd never win. Just a woman with nothing left to fight with. She saw me too. For a second, I thought she might scream, charge, something. But she didn't. She just froze, then turned and walked the other way. And that was the victory. Not the recording, not the dinner, not even the restraining order. It was that moment, watching her slink away, powerless, no audience left to clap for her. I won, not by shouting louder or sinking to her level, but by holding up the mirror and letting her destroy herself in front of it. The scars she left are real. I won't lie. Some nights I still flinch when my phone buzzes, expecting another unhinged rant. Sometimes I hear her laugh in my head, the smug one she used when she thought she'd never be caught. But then I remember her face that night at the dinner table, when her own words echoed back at her. Her face was worth more than any victory. And me? I'm free. I moved out of that apartment, got a place with sunlight and quiet, started therapy, reconnected with friends I'd lost while stuck in her orbit. Even took Evan up on his offer to join his softball league. Turns out life outside the battlefield is good. Rachel always said I'd never win an argument with her. She was right. I didn't win an argument. I won the whole damn war.